Hello and welcome to the Twentyverse podcast. My name is Valeria, and I'm here to just sit with you and talk about my journey through life and hope that it helps you through yours. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to this episode of the Twentyverse. My name is Valeria, and today we're going to be talking about all things young love, the pressure of young love, and everything that entails. But I couldn't do this alone. So I brought in a very special guest. He's my boyfriend. His name is Joel. And we've been dating for over a year now?
It's been a year? No, it's been like a year and 2 months now, I believe.
Oh, look at you knowing the dates and everything. So yeah.
You don't know it?
I do. So today we wanted to kind of cover that because we both come from immigrant households. I'm Ecuadorian.
What am I?
Ethiopian.
I'm Ethiopian, yes.
And our parents have had to adjust to like this lifestyle, and everything. And I have a different story with like my love life, I guess, whatever you call it, than Joel does, because I, first of all, wasn't allowed to date till I was 16. And boy, did I jump on that quick. The moment I turned 16, I got into a relationship. And then I've been in like technically one more after that or something like that. But all very young, toxic situations, I think, in some way, shape, or form. And then I'm now in like the first really young love situation where I feel like it's kind of like the movies. But you have a different story with that.
Yeah, no. With me, it was kind of the like 16 is that's very young. For me, it was like 18 is when like it's time to. It might be okay to start looking for a girlfriend, but beforehand, focus on your studies. So yeah, we're both from immigrant families, but even within that, it was a lot different. My experience was more like do your school stuff, focus on that, and especially being an Ethiopian household, that's like very important. And you the girls will come by later, and that's when you start looking. But otherwise, don't be wasting your time. That's what I was always told until like I decided enough was enough, and I had to explore other persons other than just myself and learn how to be in a relationship. And that's when I met what's your name
again? Yeah, so just like kind of I know that you've spoken about how your parents in some ways were like, okay, time for school and everything, but would send like mixed messages because then would be like sus that you're not talking to girls. So can you expand on that?
Because I was always the type where it wasn't too big of a deal if I wasn't talking to a girl anyways. And so my parents told me the same. So I was like, okay. And so I just went about high school and like most of my teenage life, not really caring too much about it. And I mean, like the occasional girl said she liked me. I was like, wow, that's fun. But like I wouldn't think too much about it. And then at times when I'd hang out, let's say with my friends, obviously most were guys, right? My parents would be like, why are you always hanging out with guys? This and that, and question me. Yet they're the same ones who told me not to hang out with girls. They're dangerous. You got to wait a little bit and be more mature. So it's kind of like an opposite message thing where I'd get, on the one hand, warnings not to engage too much with girls just for my own good. And then the other hand, I was engaging with my guy friends too much, and I was becoming too much of a guy. So like, where's your friend that's a girl, but you're not dating? Like it was a very confusing stage that my parents were trying to tell me to be in. But eventually I realized it's more about the cultures and beliefs that they brought here, but still mixed with their own fears about what it means to be in a relationship and the dangers of being or having a girlfriend at this time and this age, especially in a country where they don't know necessarily who we'll end up with and what the person will be like. So it's kind of a mix of all those things that made me like retreat and not really think that being in a relationship would be a good idea, especially during my high school stage, and much less me and Valeria started dating when I was I was 20, so it was like 2 years into 3 years into university is when I got my first girlfriend, anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Right, my first serious relationship. So it stuck with me for a while. It's not something that like even disappeared after high school. It was more like took a couple of years of me being an adult to realize, hey, it's time for me to spend time with someone consistently, who isn't just my guy friends or who isn't just a girl that I'm just like hanging out with, or someone like I really want to be with.
Mm-hmm. But it was more so that like now you wanted it, right? Like it was like, or was it like I know at the like initial stages at 18, were you already deciding like, hey, I actually might want a girlfriend, or were you still like fooey about
No, I was fully about it. I was like, it's all good. Don't
it?
even worry. Like I was going to parties and stuff, and if something happened, something happened. But it wasn't like, oh, I'm trying to date this person or have any intention of doing that. Just because, again, what your parents tell you at a young age sticks with you for a long time. So it wasn't never anything where I'd say, oh, that girl, she's bad. Like I need to get with her. I need to date her. It was more like, oh, if something happens, that's cool. If not, and even if something does happen, we'll see about the dating part. I don't know about that. All right.
Yeah, so it wasn't like as deep.
No, no. Yeah, it was never as deep as let's say the other person would want it to be, at least to me. All right.
Yeah. It's funny.
Yeah.
And just to go back on my comment, I didn't mean that like the previous people I was with were like the toxic people. It was just a young relationship where we didn't fully know what we were doing. I'm not trying to bash anybody. I'm not trying to make that into a rude thing. I know that might have come out that way. But no, they were like, for me it was more so, I don't know. I in some ways I've always like been my mom told me like men ain't shit basically, and you shouldn't and you shouldn't really rely on them, or like you need to make it on your own. You like shouldn't get married till you're 30. Like I've been hearing those things since I was like 7 years old.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Do you think that made you want to date sooner, and so 16 was even long, or do you think that it made you smarter about the people you were with, like smart in the situations you were with people? Like what effect do you think it had on you?
I think it made me way smarter. I don't think it made me pursue people or like allow people to pursue me, because that's more so how it went sooner. But but you know me, like I find a lot of like thrill out of like having connections with people.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like at that point at 16 I was more than ready to like be in like a committed relationship, because but then again, when thinking about it, all the things that my mom told me when I was younger actually made me close myself off a lot in relationship, because I never fully trusted that like they would be good, or they would be like pure intentions. I don't know, like the narrative in my family has always been, you're young, you don't need to take any relationship that you're having right now and too serious anyways. And I was the type of person that in elementary, like I was never the type of person that was like, yeah, I have a little boyfriend, I have a little girlfriend. I never like labeled anything, because my mom would just say, no, 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 that's dumb. Your friends are getting in relationships, you're like 6 years old, like get over yourself. And so then even though I was getting into relationships, I still had like the belief constantly in the back of my mind um that like it wouldn't last anyways.
Mm.
And I guess that's what your mom was telling you as well when we started dating after that whole, so talk about like that, how she transitioned from well, like the immigrant parent dynamic transitioned from why are you never with girls to don't stress too much, it's not like this girl's here forever.
Mm-hmm. No, it's like with most African households, I think, like parents would rather not see you with, like African parents would rather not see you with a girl until they think you, well, some of them even until you're a grown ass adult, like 25 years old, and you have to hide your girlfriend. But my parents aren't that bad. It was more like they thought I could never, they thought I was never mature enough. So they were strict with like, hey, you get a girlfriend, you're not going to be being paid. Sorry, you're not going to be paying any attention to school. You're not going to be paying any attention to yourself. You're not going to grow. There's no point, this and that. And so they would put that on me, like from a young age, not to run away from girls. I was never not confident around girls. It was more like, it's not your time. Even if there are girls that you like, wait. And to be honest, it wasn't something where I could just pick up a girl anyways when I was 16. So it wasn't a big deal to me anyways. And they said, your time will come, your time. And then at a certain age of me really understanding what they were talking about how, yeah, you're not mature enough. And I truly, even to this day, I believe like there are cons and there's pros to dating young, right? I don't regret anything about me waiting this long to get a girlfriend anyways until I was 20, because I learned a lot about myself and like how to handle myself and be mature like up until that age anyways. But uh yeah, like at a certain point, my mother, after telling me all those things for years, like from the age of like 13, basically once you start turning into a teenager, oh, like don't waste your time, don't do this. At a certain age, she started getting upset that I actually listened to her advice almost. She like would question me sometimes, especially if I'd be hanging out too much, or like, just like doing guy things too much. Like, oh, what are you doing? Like, you're 17 now. You should be fooling. But I would look at her confused, because for the longest time she would tell me not to do those things and to wait until I was, a university student. I was ready and I was making, money, and I could afford having a girlfriend, because like having a girlfriend before that doesn't make any sense. You're not going to fully satisfy your girlfriend and like make and buy her the things she wants, and vice versa. Like it just won't. And then when she starts questioning me with all these, oh, how come you're not hanging out with someone? It really confused me for a bit. And like I would have to try and like prove to her almost like, no, I could. There's this girl and like this, and I could if I wanted, but and she would just look at me kind of not believing me. And then it was a weird dynamic for a certain point where she almost thought that I'd lost interest, and she started to get worried that I wasn't into like people at all, and I was more like into myself and like not caring, and I was careless. So that messes up your the way you think your parents logic works in a way. Like I would always assume that my parents were the most clear-headed people, but when it comes down to it, it's more what they feel at the moment that they tell you. Then sometimes at the end of the day, it doesn't really add up, right? It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't really make any sense. So you're just gonna have to wing it yourself and see what makes sense and see who makes sense,
Mm-hmm.
right? For yourself. And
And
it took me a little bit to realize that, but at the end of the day, I didn't want to, regardless of whether or not my parents told me to or not to. I wanted to wait until I met someone I actually knew a relationship would last with. Like I wouldn't. There was no point of me trying to date someone or me trying to find someone that I wasn't meant to find. I've always thought when the right person comes along, I don't know, I'll shoot my shot and it'll work out. But it's not something where I'm going to be worrying about. Oh, I need a girl. I need this. I need that. There's a lot of other responsibilities that come with being in a relationship. So, and I always knew that even before I had any interactions with a girl like that. For some reason, it was just an intuitive thing. So, it worked out in the end. But yeah, my parents, as much as advice and good advice that is that they gave me, was a lot of confusing shit they threw my way as well.
yeah, he's an Aquarius, ladies and gentlemen. Um,
What is that?
it's okay, don't worry. The people that know.
I know, I'm
Um,
just fine.
I guess yeah, because it's interesting the way that like your mom would describe girls. Like you need to have enough money to like take her
Mm-hmm.
out and satisfy all her things because she
Mm-hmm.
has like a certain view of like a what a woman would be. And
Mm-hmm.
then my mom, like the same thing. Like she was like, no, like you can't trust. Like it's because our parents had their own views on what people this age are. And tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm not like I don't ask you for shit. Like I don't ask you to spoil me. I'm not materialistic because I don't want to put that
No,
message
no,
out
you're
there.
you're not at all.
And so like it's interesting.
No, I was gonna add something.
Stop. It's interesting that like that could have like actually made you not pursue, let's say, this relationship just because you thought that that's what a girl would want and the only thing that a girl would want,
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
making sure that you can take care of her and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember this one time. Like I thought, I don't know what this is a reflection of, but my mom asked me one time when I was like 16 or something. I don't know if I've told you this. She asked me when we were driving one day, I think it was 15 or 16. At that point I just moved to Calgary, so I didn't getting a license was the last thing on my mind. And she was like, when are you gonna get your license? And like, what, like, you need to start driving soon. And my response was, I don't have a girlfriend yet. What's the point? Right? Because I always assumed those things that were associated with making money and like being able to afford things came along with having a girlfriend. So if I didn't have one, there wasn't much point to it. And so that was a responsibility that would come when having a girlfriend. Right. So it influenced the way I thought about having certain things and making money. And like, oh, when I start having a job, because I didn't even work in high school. My parents gave me an allowance. Like that was more than enough for me to be fine with. And so they told me not to work. If anything, they're like, no, you're not working in high school. You're just going to focus on your studies and get into university. So don't even worry about it. So that kind of pushed me in the way of, yeah, don't even worry about having a girlfriend either. I associated the two things together in a way where it's like, yeah, I'm just going to be in high school, focusing on school. And like, yeah, I'm an honor student. I'm just going to focus on that. And that's enough for now. Like anything else would distract me, my parents say. So I'm going to just leave that.
That's so funny. Yeah, because you were an IB student. You were like the kids that really had to study and do shit.
Yeah.
But your high school people,
I wouldn't
know
say
that
I
you
took it
still had
as seriously
fun.
as other kids, but it was more of a thing where like I let that thought, or I let that fact that I was an IB kid like influence me to thinking I was super busy and I didn't have the time for it, and like this was my most important thing. When in reality,
if you wanted to, you could.
I could have, right? I could have, if I had the choice to, I could have multitasked. And if anything, having a girlfriend or being in a relationship when you're in high school teaches you a lot too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So something that could have taught me a lot for this relationship, even, right? In different ways. I don't know what ways, but being in a relationship teaches you a lot, like you could say, right? Like it's taught you a lot.
Like I've like we talk about this, that it's kind of like the universe's way. Like it was perfect for us to get together when we did, because if I was to get into this relationship any younger, or before any other of my other relationships, I wouldn't have the the wisdom that I gained from those relationships. Like those relationships gave me, some of them taught me confidence. Some of them taught me that I want someone to just be like my best friend. Some how I don't want to be treated or how I don't want to treat people. So they all like had their place, and like I'm very happy that I experienced all of them. But
not too happy though.
Not so those like that was that, but like it wasn't like I knew that it wasn't like I didn't feel good in it, but it took me like a while. Like I'm a stubborn person.
Very.
I'm just like, I'm fixed energy. I'm a Taurus. And it takes me a while to learn shit, like when my head's just in one place. So I kept on going for the same kind of type of people, but they're all kind of better and better and better according to who I was at that point. But without having experienced all of that, I would have never been in a place where I could fully embrace this relationship and fully be grateful for what this relationship has. Like, and I know that you weren't in relationships before this, but I know that like if
I have no standard, you know. I'm playing. I think that I got really lucky in that like I met someone who's like just the type of person I needed to be in a relationship with, like the exact, and that's why we were friends for the longest time.
Yeah.
Right. Because we didn't even realize it ourselves.
Yeah.
And when I did, I had to act on it because I was like, nah, this is too weird. We got too much in common. We think the same way. We gotta make something happen.
And
I gotta make something happen at least.
And yeah, so just some background on that. Me and Joel met in my first year of university. It was his first year in our degree, kinesiology. And we met there and we were friends for, I think, like a year.
Yeah, I'm not like 30 though. I'm only like a year and a half older.
Yeah. Yeah, we were friends for a year, and then we started dating and figuring it out. And it was kind of, you know, how everybody wants the relationship of starting friends first. But I honestly really think that like for me, I don't know. It's always been an experience that if I have like a friend of the other gender, or any other gender than mine, for that matter, like it would always be forced to be something that it wasn't like straight up, but like straight up out the gate.
Let me say that again.
Like at the beginning
Yeah.
of like a relationship, if I had like a guy friend,
Yeah.
it would always be like they'd pursue me right away. And then there was no point of being friends, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But like I was in a relationship when we met.
Yeah.
So like it allowed us to like literally just be friends.
Mm-hmm. And
And
not
just
even
that.
good friends to begin with,
No.
not like that. We just knew of each other.
Yeah.
I knew of her. It wasn't like we were hanging out or anything like that, or even we're hanging out at school like that. But we just knew of each other through a mutual friend.
Yeah.
And later on, as she like went through the school year and she got out of her relationship and she came back, she spent the summer and I spent my own summer, and we hung out every so often. We ended up hanging out a little bit more and
That's cool.
at school, and we ended up learning about each other's like dislikes and likes and everything. And so we learned a lot about each other, and that's when we came to an area where it's like, oh wow,
this could be something.
Yeah, this could be something.
But like again, like just because we're perfect for each other now, like if I were to meet you when I was 16 and I was like, or when I was 16 or you were 16, or
yeah, no, that wouldn't
it wouldn't have worked.
No, not at all.
It like 100% wouldn't have worked.
No, I don't think so.
But why don't you think so?
Why don't I think so?
I want to know.
I think there's a lot of factors that come up with the why. Number one being, at 16, I wasn't dumb or nothing, but I had the maturity of like a 13-year-old probably. And I think that you were like kind of like acting like someone like that was even older than they were. So we wouldn't have aligned, like
no,
I'm out here thinking like a 12-year-old like high school kid, middle school kid. You're acting like a little bit more mature lady. So it wouldn't have worked. But eventually I think like that's why the age we met, like it made it work. We were both at a stage where it's like, yeah, we're at the same level where we can communicate and like understand each other and understand each other's experiences. But at that age, 16,
nah,
nah.
It wouldn't have. And I'm glad like that we didn't meet at that stage, even though weirdly enough, like we knew each other's mutual friends.
Yeah,
like we had a lot of mutual friends for like a minute too, and somehow we never crossed paths.
Yeah.
Like ever.
I mean, you were low key kind of.
Yeah.
And I was like not even key. I was nowhere to be found. So yeah.
Yeah, but I still knew your friends, and I interacted with a lot of people around you.
Yeah, you did.
And like you were never brought up. And then if I was brought up, because I was brought up.
Who the hell's Val? I didn't even know. Val, Valeria, who's that?
Yeah, so it was good that we met at the time that we did.
That's university, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about university. Like it's a mix of a bunch of different communities and schools, right?
Yeah.
All in one place where you can meet different people and all that. So university definitely was the gateway for us meeting. Right? Otherwise it wouldn't have ever happened.
Yeah. And like talking about the kind of pressures of young love and the limiting beliefs that we kind of had around young love, I was very hesitant going to the relationship, like very much so. That's why he keeps on saying like I had to make a move. It was because I was in a space where I was like, oh, like nothing's working. I was so mad at like the concept of love. I was just like, the people that I'm
had like, nothing to do with me.
Nothing. I was just projecting. And so like when he was pursuing, or when we were trying to talk, and I was like, oh shit, might we have something? I don't want to have something. I was starting to get like mad that I was even getting involved. Yeah, so I had all these limiting beliefs that was like consistently stopping me from wanting to pursue this, right? And I'm so glad that I didn't let it interfere, but I was very hesitant of the idea of going into a relationship when we were in university. I started catastrophizing literally everything. I was like, oh my gosh, but if we break up, then because we were a trio of three, like me, Joel, and we have a friend Ephraim.
Shout out to Ephraim.
Shout out to Ephraim. And Ephraim hadn't come back the school year that we were hanging out more, which is the reason we hung out more. And I was like, oh my gosh, but what if me and Joel break up? Then it's gonna make the dynamic so weird. We have so many mutual friends.
See, I wasn't even thinking about all that, about the future, but that's like speaks to the most part about guys. They don't think about ahead. They just, right now is what I'm feeling, and that's what's gonna happen.
Which is like great, right? Like I feel like I have a lot of friends that also thought or think the way that I thought. I was just like stressing about everything that could be and hasn't been and would have been, and it was really just messing up the entire dynamic that could have happened. But it was because I had pressure on myself, and I was like, well, my mom said that young relationships never last, so what's to say that this one's gonna last? Why would I even spend time in this? I want to be alone. I want to be single. I want to live the single life, blah blah blah. And I was just trying to control every little thing of it, because of those beliefs. But like you were hinting at, you thought of it differently.
Thought of what different?
Of getting into the relationship. You didn't have as many hesitations.
No. But, well, that comes in part with me not ever being in a relationship. So it's like, if it fails, it's the first one. But it wasn't a thought in my mind about, where's this gonna go, or like I just knew that this relationship was something where we could both be extremely satisfied with each other, right? And we'd have fun, and like we'll learn and we'll grow. So like, why not? Right? I wasn't thinking about what the end result was, or like, this could potentially like lead to this or to that, because that's never usually something that stops me from doing something in the first place, right?
Yeah.
Unless it's a life-altering decision, but I don't know what that would be considered anyways.
Yeah. So to kind of close out this episode, kind of leading on to that and how we're in a relationship now, but we were in different places when we started.
Yeah, I'm gonna sing a song for y'all.
No, stop.
Oh no, never mind.
Do you have any tips for them of young love? Do you have any last advice or last insights of young love for whoever's listening?
Tips?
Advice? Anything? Just be more like Joel. He never catastrophizes anything. He just kind of
do you. Yeah, that's what it is.
He goes with the flow.
Yeah.
And it led to this.
Yeah. Do you. I mean, your parents are gonna tell you stuff, your friends are gonna tell you stuff. People are gonna tell you stuff. You listen to their advice, but at the end of the day, I think usually unless you're someone who really gets in their head a lot, as long as you do you should be fine. Like whatever feels comfortable to you. That's what I always did.
Yeah. And I'm learning that definitely. And for anyone that's in my position, that's more so just overthinking every situation, just take a step back, ask yourself what's real and what isn't real, and like what's happened and what hasn't happened, and just take the facts and just go with the flow, because the unknown leads to amazing things. Especially, I mean, we're experiencing amazing things.
Yeah.
but we would have never, we would have never been there if we both didn't take a leap in some way, shape, or form.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, amazing. I loved this episode. Thank you all for listening so much.
You're welcome.
You can come join me at the Twentyverse podcast on Instagram. Tell me your thoughts, tell me your breakthroughs, share it with your friends. I will repost you. And yeah, if you have any other words to say, DM me. I'll pass it on to Joel. Do you have any other words?
No.
You're good?
None, yeah.
Okay.
But, yeah, if you have any questions, ask Val.
Yeah, and I will forward it to him, or we will chat, or we'll do a live one day on Instagram. We'll figure it out.
Tell me if you disagree with anything we said too. I mean, I don't think we said anything disagreeable, but you never know. So let us know.
Yeah. Okay. Amazing. Thank you so much for listening. I'll talk to you next week. Bye. If you loved what you heard today, go ahead and follow or subscribe in anywhere that you listen to your podcast. You can also leave a review. I would appreciate that very much. You can send those into the Twentyverse podcast and we can have a chat there. And tune in every week for some new episodes.